Well, good morning, everybody. This is David coming to you from New Mexico. This week, I'd like to talk to you about God, the Bible, and the flat earth. Trust me, flat earthers won't like this. First of all, this week's joke. Have you ever noticed that geese always fly in a V shape? Why is one line longer than the other? Think about it. So, in talking about this difficult topic, first of all, we have to talk about God. First, you cannot prove there is no God. You cannot prove there is a God. And this is because there's no universally accepted standard of proof. Number two, this is another hard to believe. God exists outside of space-time continuum. Let me say that again. God exists outside of the space-time continuum. John 4:24 says, God is a spirit, and his worshipers must worship him in spirit and in truth. Psalm 94 says, 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. 2 Peter 3:8 says, with the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. And number three, you have been taught these things for a long time, but without the current scientific understandings of space-time. Okay, so now we've talked about God. Let's talk about the Bible. Number one, the Bible was written for a very specific purpose, just like your favorite world history, physics, or English textbook. The Old Testament was written to show the history of the Israelites, and it clearly points ahead to the coming Messiah. The four Gospels show the current life of Jesus. The remaining letters are spiritual teachings. Number three, this is very important. The Bible is clearly not a science textbook, and it never was meant to be a science textbook. I really want to repeat that. The Bible is clearly not a science textbook, and it never was meant to be a science textbook. There are 31 verses in Genesis chapter 1 that give a summary view of the creation, just like a foreword or a preface in a book. The Bible contains over 31,000 verses total. That means just 0.1% concern creation. So we're talking about a very small part that talks just briefly about creation. And let me close this part by saying a major Christian movement says about the Bible, the scriptures, both Old and New Testaments, are verbally inspired of God and are the revelation of God to man. The infallible, authoritative rule of what? Faith and conduct, not creation. Okay, so now let's talk about creation. Is there science or is it the Bible? So first, let's talk about science. I recently read Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. I highly recommend it. And it starts off the very first thing with, in the beginning, nearly 14 billion years ago, everything was contained in a volume less than 1/trillionth the size of a period. Though still unknown how, Big Bang created the universe from nothing. The Bible says in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. He created the universe from nothing. Okay, once again, Big Bang. Science. It goes on to say in Neil deGrasse Tyson's book that light escaped from the start of the universe at about 1/trillionth of a second. The Bible, Genesis 1:3, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So we see quite a parallel here. Part 2, creation, earth. How was the earth created? Science or Bible? Very simplistically, this is not by no means a treatise on how the earth was created. The earth was created by an accretion disk left over from creation of the sun. This material coalesced due to gravity and heated into a ball of hot magma. As the earth cooled, water formed by interactions between minerals in the earth's mantle. Heavier elements were drawn deep into the earth by gravity. Lighter elements and minerals not so deep and gases were left in the atmosphere and in the crust. Many other forces and systems are involved. Once again, this is a very simplistic paragraph because this is a very incredibly complex system. So now the Bible again only offers a very simple, compact definition. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Genesis 1:6-8. And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And this was so. And God called the vault sky. Note here, big note, flat earthers will call this vault firmament. I'm sure all of you have heard this more than you want to, which is just as correctly interpreted from the ancient Hebrew as expanse or sky. Notice that the verse we just talked about, Genesis 1:8, is totally ignored by flat earthers. The word dome is never used in the Bible anywhere. Another thing that you hear sometimes is waters above the earth, which can be expressed as water vapor in the atmosphere or clouds. Get this, meteorologists tell us at any moment the atmosphere contains an astounding 37.5 million billion gallons of water in the invisible vapor phase. This is enough water to cover the entire surface of the earth, land, and ocean with 1 inch of rain. Our changing earth. Science says the earth consisted of one large continent called Pangaea, with the remainder of the earth covered with water. At some point, the continent began to break up in continents we have today. Again, these are very complex systems. This is a very brief discussion. The Bible simply says in Genesis 1, 9 and 10, God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. And God called the dry ground land, and gathered the waters he called seas. Okay, here's another one that our great uh, creationists go by. For the sake of brevity, I won't list the incredibly complex science, and I won't quote Bible scriptures which are listed in Genesis 1, 11 to 27. So both science and the Bible list the following introductions of life. Okay, in this order: vegetation, plants, trees, and fruit. Right after that, it lists the sun, moon, and stars, all within the vault of the sky. Uh, Maybe this is due to increasing oxygen and decrease of water vapor. No one was here to see the cause. One can speculate how there was light and dark before the sun, moon, and stars. Okay, the next thing, ocean creatures. So creatures in the water, crawled up on the land, right? So next is birds to fly across the vault of the sky. And the next one, land animals of all kinds. And lastly is mankind. And you have to remember when you're talking about all of this Bible stuff, we've already discussed that there's no time or space with God. Okay, so here are my conclusions. As we have seen, the Bible offers a very brief summary of the creation of the universe, but it really follows closely the much more detailed scientific explanations. Number two, science and scientific processes, laws, theories, everything were created by God. You can check out John 1:3. It is in no way evil or satanic or shameful or hiding God to work in any field of science. When you hear this on videos, trust me, it's just not that way. Worship of any man, creature, or creation is much more attributable to flat earth people and their obsession with doctrine of flat earth and with their favorite leader. Next, the Bible teaches that God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and infinite. Think about that when you're reading the Bible. Those of you that believe in this finite dome, snow globe, it is not a testament to him or the works of his hands to say that a finite flat earth covered by a solid dome is the sum total of the universe. This is merely the limitations of a puny, faithless mind. And lastly, I have simplified an incredibly complex system that is still being studied, explored, and explained. Do not for a minute think that this is all-encompassing. Do not expect that any 5-minute explanation is the be-all, end-all to any part of this issue. Many men spend decades studying the minutest details of the universe, starting from largest galaxy clusters all the way to smallest subparticles. And I have one last thing to say. This has nothing to do with spiritual beliefs or religion or science. It has nothing to do with that. No matter your knowledge of or level of education, I want you to go outside, look around, and look up. And here is my summary. It is simply mind-blowing, glorious, and awe-inspiring to think of a nearly infinite universe with massive galaxies, revolving stars, each star with revolving, rotating planets, most planets with revolving, rotating moons, and then the Earth, Moon, Sun, closed system, all the way down to atoms, which also have revolving, rotating electrons. Each member of the universe plays its part like an orchestra without moving out of its place or usurping a different part. As human beings, we are, as far as our finite minds know, we are the only intelligent life in the entire universe. This should make you feel special, as one of a kind, only you. I want that to sink in. You are a one of a kind, only you. Okay, so we'll close this out by ending up with this week's joke. So, have you ever noticed that geese always fly in a V shape? Why is one line longer than the other? There are more geese in that line. Yup, yup, yup.